All right, next up, it's Martha Byrne, Emmy Award-winning actress from As the World Turns and General Hospital. She is the wife of the retired NYPD detective I was describing to you, who has himself earned 78 medals. He was subjected to lawfare because, as I understand it, and Martha you can explain this in more detail, he apparently was drawn in as a private investigator by some Chinese nationals who were here as not as citizens, but as legal like green card holders, something of that sort. And he was working for them as a private investigator. That's simple. That made him a spy. There's the book, In the Interest of Justice. Martha Byrne, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Right. It's really
it's our privilege. So tell us the story. What actually happened to him? I saw his interview with Dr. Phil and other places. I thought it was just astonishing.
It really is. And I think to go back to your opening there is that he was hired by a New York-based company, a translation company in Queens, which had a legitimate website. Everything was normal. He signed a retainer agreement. He got a bank check from their company. And her client was looking to find his money from allegedly a construction company that had been stolen from his family business. But the man that had stolen the money had fled here and was laundering the money, he believed, in the United States. So he's looking to find assets, homes, cars, a day in the life kind of thing. Very routine for a private investigator. But my husband was an NYPD officer for 14 years. And when he retired after a police chase, a severe car accident, he became a PI. And worked on high-profile cases. I mean, he wasn't like following the cheating wives, those kind of things. He worked for the Vatican. He worked for presidential candidates. And so when this case came up, it was very routine. I mean, it was literally a couple of days of work. He hired 2 NYPD retired detectives who were also PIs. He did some asset searches, background checks, some surveillance. He notified the local police that he was doing surveillance, which is, it's a courtesy, obviously, for the neighborhood and for everyone. The other PIs also notified the local police they were there. And then he never thought about it. That was in 2017. He worked a few days. He made a few $1,000s. And then on October 28th, 2020, they came to our house, the FBI, and raided my house before dawn in front of my children and charged him with a FARA violation. That's the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And interstate stalking. Now, there's not one piece of evidence that there was any Chinese government connected to this case. Absolutely zero. He had every text message, email, invoice, surveillance report. He's like, this must be a mistake. And interstate stalking makes no sense because he's a private investigator parked on a public street and the people he was following never saw him and there was no complaints against him, no reports, nothing. He said, this must be a mistake. So we're going to fight this. Well, we learned very quickly when you tell the Department of Justice that you're going to fight it and you have so much evidence in support of your innocence, they will do everything to bankrupt you, suppress the evidence, manufacture the evidence. And I don't say this lightly, Dr. Drew. I mean, there is evidence that there was false information on search warrants and they want to bankrupt you and break you. And this has been almost 5 years. So we went to trial for this case. How they could take this to trial was shocking. We thought, well, okay, we have evidence. We'll just use our evidence to clear him. His interrogation video was incredible. It was clearly that he was innocent. There was a $30 million civil lawsuit against the man he was following, which makes sense that he had stolen money. Oh, let's use that. That's great. That shows that he was just doing a civil case. Let's talk about your career, NYPD, all these incredible things, heroism that you did. Every single thing I just mentioned, we were not allowed to put at trial. And they were not allowed to tell the jury any of that. But they did talk to, so my husband, they investigated this. The Red Bank FBI office investigated this case for 4 years. In their 4 years, they never spoke to my husband. They never spoke to the other NYPD detectives. And they never spoke to 2 other federal agents that my husband had spoken to, but casually about this case in 2016. But they did speak to the Chinese agents. And they did speak to the target quite a bit, who was actually a Wuhan official who was here in the country illegally, and his family members who had committed crimes in the United States.
Illegally.
Illegally. So here we go, illegally. And there was evidence, proof in a case out of California that they had committed immigration fraud, and it was ignored. And we were not allowed to ask them about that either, or any of their crimes on the stand. And then they perjured themselves and made up stories to put my husband in prison. Now, everything I'm telling you right now sounds outrageous, but I've lived through it for 5 years. He was given 18 months in federal prison, 18 months. And the judge said, well, not because you did anything wrong, basically. I'm paraphrasing, of course, because the evidence was so overwhelming that he was innocent. But the jury believed the made-up story and found him guilty. But the judge saw the evidence. She knows. I believe, right? I believe she knows. So she's like, I'm not going to give you, because you did anything, you may have gotten stuck into this case, but because you have no remorse for the victims in this case. That's why I'm giving you such a harsh sentence.
Who were the victims?
So the victim, he was a high-ranking Wuhan official who fled here to the United States, having been accused of embezzlement and bribes. He was, as I said, he was proven to have committed immigration fraud, wire fraud in the United States. And we most recently found out he had donated to Hillary Clinton in 2016 under his own name. Now, I'm sorry, if you're afraid of the CCP, why would you be doing that? And his family members were the same. But we were not allowed to talk about that at trial. And he was protected by this FBI and this EDNY. So the opposite happened here. They were protecting him. And over and over and over again, I said, how is this possible in this country that my family's safety, the safety of the United States of America, the national security of this country was compromised to assist the people that want to take us down and assist them. And there were even thank you notes between one of the FBI agents and the alleged victim about helping him with his immigration and the law. So there's a lot of other things about this case that are very, very
there's something, it's all very odd. Something's not right,
yes.
Right? So there's something missing. What were the lies that he told on the stand, the Wuhan guy?
So he said that there was a meeting at a mall between himself and his father that supposedly had been forced here from China, but he flew first class here, by the way. That there was a meeting at a mall in New Jersey that my husband witnessed, followed them. It never happened. How do we know that? My husband's cell tower evidence, he was nowhere near a mall. There's no video evidence of a mall meeting. There's no photographs. There's no vehicle explanation about them being followed. No license plate numbers, because it never happened. So what happened was they took a picture that was on my husband's phone from a previous surveillance and made a story around it, that they made that witness confirm it, and his wife also confirm it, and his sister-in-law, that this happened, that there was a chase through a neighborhood and he was followed. It never happened, okay? We had evidence that it never happened, hard evidence that it never happened. We had an expert go on the stand saying Michael McMahon was in his hometown of New Jersey, up north, miles and miles away. On one of the days, the man said he was followed by this mysterious vehicle they tried to portray that was my husband. So this whole calculated plan to perjure themselves on the stand, to put an innocent man, hero, in prison, who's never done anything wrong in his life, Dr. Drew. I mean, when I tell you they had to go back to his high school, they went back to his high school transcript to see if he'd ever done anything wrong. His NYPD career. Now, Dr. Drew, he worked in the Bronx, okay? His interactions with people, thousands and thousands. He was in a shooting in Times Square during his career where he saved hundreds of lives. He took thousands of guns off the street, probably, right? They couldn't find one thing. They found one complaint against him in the NYPD that they used at court saying he's a bad man. And the complaint was from a gang member's mother who came into the precinct and was upset that my husband called her son, who was recruiting children at a school, my husband called him stupid. That was the complaint that they used to say that he was what a bad person he is. To listen to that every single day, it was like a knife in my heart every single day. I wanted to scream that the jury's nodding. Oh, he's nodding. This horrible person.
Oh my God.
It's shocking how they can get away with it and just make it up. And then, as time has gone on and I've spoken out and I've exposed them, and I've shown the proof, they would just double down more. And then I would get pressured. I got a letter about something I tweeted and, the pressure. But that was under the Biden DOJ, okay? The fear of people to speak up and tell the truth because they were so afraid. They were literally afraid to come and, let's say, testify, for instance. One of our witnesses was terrified to come and said he was going to plead the fifth because he was pressured. That fear has now been lifted because of the new administration. When Donald Trump put his hand on that Bible, our world changed. And they went after him. And what they did to Donald Trump and how they literally made things up to charge him with no victim, right? No victim, again. We're watching this in real time going, that's what's happening to our family. That's exactly what happened to us. And because of Donald Trump, kind of, like I said, lifting the cloud of looking over your shoulder that you're going to be attacked and you're going to be punished for telling the truth. Our world has changed. But that didn't stop the fact that my husband is 600 miles away, sitting in a federal prison for doing absolutely nothing wrong. And he's a 9/11 first responder. He has 9/11 illness. He's had 4 surgeries. He needs treatment. And they sent him 600 miles away where he cannot get the proper treatment that he needs to stay healthy. I don't know how we do that to our heroes in this country who sacrificed their body, their mind, their heart, their soul. They just threw him in the garbage. And Donald Trump backs the blue.
What do you imagine this was? What are they trying to protect the Wuhan official? Are they trying to protect themselves because this guy was involved with somebody in the White House? It's hard to imagine what this was. Why all this at your husband? And I think you're going to have to come up with that explanation when you sort of try to make sense of all this so people can understand why they targeted him.
I think it was the week before the election he was arrested. And China is a huge issue, not just with the Trump administration. Trump wanted more on China. And my husband was arrested on October 28th, 2020, a week before the biggest election in our country. And China was a huge issue. What happened? The Hunter Biden's laptop. China was infiltrating. Now we've learned so much more what was going on with China during the 2020 election. There was ballots being printed in with fake licenses. Like there was a lot around the election that was happening regarding China. And I think my husband was he checked a lot of boxes. He was NYPD, but he wasn't like NYPD, meaning the entire NYPD. He was a private investigator. And he was the only American that has ever been arrested in any of these Fox Hunt operations about China. And I'm telling you right now, because I know for a fact that he never should have been arrested based on the protocols regarding these Fox Hunt operations through the FBI. And when I say the FBI, I'm talking about the FBI who were doing the right thing. And so this office in New Jersey wanted to, I believe, play with the big boys and give something to DC, national intelligence, like, let's get them. Let's show that we can also arrest Americans in these Chinese operations to send a message. And it backfired because my husband gets clicks. His picture and my picture were all around the world in the media. So it got this distraction about China, but nobody's safer. We didn't do anything better regarding Chinese operations. It was worse. Spy balloons, police stations. Where were they for the last 4 years? When my husband got involved in this case, they could have spoken to him and they could have helped. He could have, and everyone now that I know, really incredible FBI agents who have come forward and say, we would have loved to work with your husband. This was totally wrong how it was handled. So there's got to be an investigation a lot deeper into why they picked my husband. And they shouldn't have, because it was totally inappropriate.
So to that effect, you're in Washington now.
I am.
I'm imagining you're there to try to get to somebody.
Yeah.
What do you plan to do? Both A, what do you plan to do? And B, how can people help you?
Well, thank you so much. So Congressman Michael Lawler, who's been incredible and been a supporter behind us for years and years. There is a pardon clemency right at the White House, and it has been filed and vetted, and it's right there. I just want Donald Trump to read the details, and I feel like he would sign it. If he sees and hears what really happened here, he'll say that happened to me, and he'll understand. I was down. I've been running around D.C. meeting with several congressmen who have been supportive of Michael. Also, Congressman Pete Sessions and other members of the Trump administration who have just been phenomenally supportive. We have the backing, we have the support. People know he's innocent, but as you know, in this town, there's a lot of boxes that have to be checked and a lot of steps that have to be taken to get him home. But we have the support. It's not going on deaf ears. And I want people to hear that to understand that if you keep talking and you keep going out there and you keep showing the facts, people will start paying attention, and it's happening. And I'll never stop until he's exonerated and freed. And I will tell you, the meetings I've had down here in the last 24 hours, that people are determined to make that happen. But if you go to the pipe hitter,
I know that you've got your eye on the target, which is get your husband home, and I fully endorse that. But I also want to know what was going on here. I want to know what is wrong with our government.
A lot of people down here want to know the same. A lot of people want to know here. Yeah. Oh, yes. This is a lot of.
Yeah.
But I think we have a chance now. I think with this new administration, I think with the judiciary committees and the oversight committees, and the oversight committee did a report on the CCP in October of 2024. James Comer saying my husband shouldn't have been arrested, and it was weaponization. And so that was a huge win for us. That 45 members of Congress agreed. So we're getting there. But it's a lot of work, and we need your support. That's why having conversations with you changes that people listen and educate themselves and understand what really happened. And that's why I wrote the book. If people want to understand how this can happen to innocent people, how do they win 99% of their cases? How do they win 99% of the cases? Those odds are ridiculous, right? How do they indict 99% of the people that they try to indict? Read my book. You'll see how they do it. And it's scary, and it needs to change. And if people want to help, you talked about the Pipe Hitter Foundation, which is Eddie Gallagher's foundation. I don't know if you're aware of Eddie Gallagher, the Navy SEAL captain who was falsely accused of murder, has this wonderful foundation called the Pipe Hitter Foundation.org. And they've been with us from the beginning and never stopped supporting us. And Mike has his own page there, and there's updates on the case and lots of pictures about what's going on here and who I've met with. And we have a tremendous amount of support from the fan base, who have been amazing. I mean, being on television for 45 years does have its benefits and support system built in. People who love you because they know you, and they know my husband. They saw us get married, have our children. They know my husband's a hero. So I have to thank them as well, because without them, I don't know who'd be listening. And that's a sad state, but we're going to help a lot more people when Mike gets home, and we're going to help unravel this case.
Right. I mean, it is sad that others can't appeal to the same population that you can, but by the same token, if you see this thing all the way through, you may protect God knows how many people from similar ends.
That's right. That's my plan. That's my plan. I think God put you in a position. I would say God leads you to it to get you through it. That's how I feel like God wouldn't put us in this position if he didn't give us the strength and belief that we could get through this and help other people. And I have to take it as an honor to be able to fight for other people, for the voice of the voiceless. And my husband feels the same way. He's like, I feel like I'm deployed. I feel like I'm fighting for the rights of so many people. Why else would you spend millions? Why would you spend millions of dollars? Why would you people take the plea? No, he did nothing wrong. But you're going to lose millions of dollars, your reputation. They're going to try to beat you, break up your family. You get followed. People call you a spy. They think you're a traitor. They want to, harm your family. Like, to take on that kind of attack, you have to really stand in the truth. And if the truth is what wins in the end, it is worth it, because it might not happen to the next guy. And we'll be standing right next to them to help them fight that battle, because we've been given the gift of the opportunity to fight and win, because we will win in the end. We will. And maybe it'd be easier for the next person who won't feel so alone. And maybe that's our next purpose in our life, to use what we've been given, the platform we've been given, the support we've been giving, to share it with the next person who will feel attacked and alone. But listen, if we can stop one person, I've spoken to FBI agents who looked at this case and go, why the hell did they go forward? Why did they speak to your husband? I said, I don't know. I don't know. He would have helped. He would have been thrilled to be a part of it. But you know something? They didn't ask him because they didn't want his help, and they didn't want him to participate because it would have foiled maybe something else. And he could not have been a part. He would not have been. He should not. They didn't want him a part of that. because he doesn't do anything. He would never do anything wrong.
It's so crazy that we are living through that time when standing up and speaking up seem to be very important.
Yes.
Very important mandates that we just have to do it. And if you're, like you said, if you've been given the audience and you've given the outlet and you have the need, the truth must be spoken at all times, because we have been through some really wild, continue to go through some wild times where truth begs no issue. And it is time to bring back the truth, or at least an approximation of it as best we can get there. I'm going to send people to your X, which is Martha Byrne, Byrne 10. And I'm looking at a Amazon. I don't understand what this is. Amazon/DP/BOFBJY2DD7R. What is that?
I think that's the link.
Is that some weird typo? You know what? It must be the link to your book.
I think so.
That's the link to the book.
Yeah, it's the link to the book. Yeah.
So they don't have to type that in. They can just go to drdrew.com and the link is on the page.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, people are responding to the book, and and they're getting it. They're reading it and they're getting it. They're understanding how this happened. And I'm trying I wanted to write a book where anybody could pick it up and get the case and understand the Justice Department and the weaponization in one book, and also families' struggle, but yet triumph, and through faith and family and love and strength and support. That's how you get through these difficult times. My son became a police officer through this. I mean, believe it or not, my son's a cop now. My other kids are doing wonderfully, and they're so proud of their father for fighting back. So we survived, but we got to get him home. I mean,
well, it's we don't like that these are the realities that we've been handed, and yet how you respond to them says everything, right? We don't want we don't want to be in this position. But you've been put here, however you choose to believe that happened, God, whatever, higher power, and responding to it and resiliently making meaning and changing and making a difference. I mean, it's a gift. It's just unpleasant. It's just super unpleasant.
It is. But I think when I've been in the entertainment industry since I was 10 years old, and my mom always told me, if you've given this gift to be in television and you have an opportunity to help other people because of what you've been given, this gift, I always did that. I was on St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I was on their board. I've raised, but I mean, that was my cause for all my entire career, because I had an opportunity and a voice. And now I have this voice to help others in this, and it's actually happening to me and my family. So I do consider it a gift. And it's horrible that it happened to our family, and especially my husband, who was just a wonderful human being, kind, unselfish. Stay
optimistic. We want to believe that he will have his day. And are you talking to the people in the Justice Department?
Yes. Yes. I mean, Ed Martin actually endorsed my book. Ed Martin, who is the pardon attorney, is also the weaponization czar. He endorsed my book. He has a beautiful quote in my book about what happened to Mike, and he's been a supporter. And I've met Ed years ago, but before he got into DOJ, and he had me speak at Bedminster about weaponization of government as a guest. So, listen, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people that have to go to look through this case, but we've never once had anybody say, everybody said he was totally railroaded,
of course,
and used.
Yeah.
So,
I'm thinking about the success that Dr. Moore had, by getting up the food chain at the Justice Department. Yes. Is that something that could help you guys, or is it a different path?
Absolutely. Oh no, absolutely. Okay. I mean, this is a DOJ case. I mean, this is out of a federal case out of the Eastern District of New York, and many people in my husband's case have been fired since this case has happened, which is almost unheard of. For anybody to get fired or left. So people are running for the hills because this is a case that is so riddled with corruption. Awful. So, the new DOJ, the new blood that's coming into the DOJ and recognizes the weaponization and the lawfare and using, taking the law and kind of moving it and changing it to the way they need it to get somebody, as opposed to exonerate somebody is the opposite of how the Justice Department is supposed to work. So I know the long-term goal is to clean the Justice Department and get back to the roots of what it should be, which is remove the innocent and convict the guilty, period.
Martha, we appreciate you being here, and we'll love to hear some updates, and best of luck with this, and however we can help, please let us know.
Thank you so much, Dr. Drew, and everybody who's watching. You know, we feel the love and we feel the support, and you know, it takes a village to clear an innocent man. It truly does take a village. So thank you. Pretty
wild. I also, as I said, I hope it uncovers as you say, the bad guys, like how this is, how we can prevent this from happening again. Thank you very much, Martha Byrne, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.